The wind howled across the red plains of Velura 7, a world once bright with twin moons and silver rivers. Now it was a silent desert of ash and broken stone. Among the ruins of a small alien village, a girl named Lyra lay on a cracked stone bed, staring at the pale light filtering through the roof. Her legs did not move. She could not feel the cold dust beneath her feet, because her feet no longer answered her mind. Weeks ago, an explosion had torn through the mining fields where her family worked. Lyra had been caught under the blast. Her spine was shattered. The healer said she would never walk again. To her people, weakness was shame. A cripple was a curse. Her family gathered around her in the dark. Their eyes did not show love anymore, only fear. Her mother whispered, "Forgive us, Lyra, the gods will take care of you now." Lyra didn't understand at first. Then she saw the shovel. They carried her out at night so no one would see. Her younger brother held a lamp that shook in his trembling hands. Her father said nothing. The stars above were dim. Even they seemed to turn away. They took her to the edge of the village where the ground was soft from the rain. Lyra begged them not to do it. She screamed that she could still be useful, that she could weave, teach anything. But her father only said, "You will bring hunger upon us. The cursed must return to the soil." The first shovelful of dirt hit her chest, then another. She tried to move, to crawl, to scream louder, but her body refused. Dust filled her mouth. The lamplight faded as her brother turned away crying. Her mother's shadow lingered the longest before vanishing into the night. The air grew tight. Darkness pressed from every side. Lyra thought of the stories her grandmother used to tell, about spirits who were buried alive and rose as monsters. She used to laugh at those stories. Now she prayed one might be true. Her lungs burned. Her heart slowed. The world slipped away. Far above that cursed valley, another light crossed the night sky. It was not a star, it was a human ship, broken and burning. Captain Ray Donovan of the Earth Expeditionary Corps fought to control the crash. His engines were gone, his communications dead. The ship hit the desert with a scream of metal and flame. Ray survived, bruised and bleeding, but alive. He staggered out into the strange alien night surrounded by ash and silence. His scanner flickered weakly, picking up faint life signs nearby, deep underground. It didn't make sense. The reading was so weak it was almost gone. But something inside him refused to ignore it. He followed the signal to a small mound of disturbed soil. His boots sank into the wet earth. The scanner beeped faster. Someone or something was buried here. He dropped to his knees and started digging with his hands. The ground was heavy and cold. His fingers tore, blood mixing with the mud. "Come on, hold on," he muttered. "Don't die on me." Then he touched skin, cold and thin as paper. A face covered in dirt, eyes half open, glazed with death. Ray pulled harder, lifting the limp body out of the grave. She looked alien but beautiful. Silver skin, soft violet hair, delicate marks along her neck that glowed faintly in the darkness. Her lips moved weakly. A whisper escaped, barely sound. "Why, save me?" Ray pressed his ear close. "Because you're alive," he said. He carried her back to the wrecked ship. Inside, he wrapped her in a thermal blanket and gave her oxygen. Slowly, her chest began to rise again. She coughed, spitting out dirt and blood. Her eyes fluttered open fully for the first time. "Human?" she rasped. "Yeah," he said. "Name's Ray, you're safe now." She stared at him in silence. Safe. The word felt strange. No one had ever said it to her before. Hours passed. Outside, rain began to fall soft and cold. Inside the wreck, Ray worked to treat her injuries. He scanned her spine, damaged beyond repair. But he had equipment, small exoskeletal pieces from the ship's lab. Maybe he could help her walk again someday. For now, he focused on keeping her alive. Lyra watched him work, confused. Humans were said to be brutal conquerors, strong but heartless. Yet this one looked at her with kindness, not disgust. When he gave her water, she tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. "You were buried," he said gently. "Why?" Her voice shook. "Because I am broken," Ray frowned. "That's not a reason to bury someone." "In my world," she whispered, "it is." The ship creaked as thunder rolled overhead. Ray looked through the small window at the storm. "Then your world is wrong." She turned her head toward him, watching the strange human who spoke of mercy like it was something natural. For the first time in her short, painful life, Lyra felt a spark, not just of gratitude, but of something darker. A will. "A flame. They buried me," she said softly. but I will not stay dead. The next morning, Ray stepped outside to check the crash site. Lyra, still weak, crawled to the doorway to watch him. She saw how he moved, strong and determined, fixing what he could, saving whatever parts might help both survive. He caught her watching and smiled. "Beautiful day," he said. "On my world," she murmured, "that word means nothing." "Then we'll give it meaning," he replied. The sentence struck her deeply. She had lived a life where words meant pain, duty, honor, purity, all twisted to justify cruelty. Now a single human, stranded and alone, spoke of hope as if it were simple truth. When he came back inside, he found her staring at a piece of broken glass, her reflection faint in the shards. "They thought I was a curse," she said quietly. "Maybe I am." Ray knelt beside her. "You're alive. That's not a curse. That's a chance." She looked at him for a long time, trying to understand this creature who didn't see her as useless. Then very slowly she nodded, but when Ray turned away, Lyra's eyes hardened. Deep inside, another thought whispered, "They will pay." Days passed. Ray repaired what he could of the ship, creating a small shelter powered by the last of his energy cells. Lyra healed slowly. Her body still refused to walk, but Ray built simple mechanical braces to help her stand. When she took her first trembling step, he smiled. "You see? You're stronger than you think." Lyra didn't smile back. She looked out the window toward the distant hills where her village lay hidden behind the storm clouds. "They think I'm dead," she said. Ray nodded. "Maybe that's a good thing. Gives you a new start," but Lyra shook her head. "No, they must remember." He looked at her carefully. "Remember what?" "What it feels like to be buried alive." The words were quiet but sharp as a blade. Ray didn't answer. He could see the pain burning inside her, a wound deeper than the scars on her back. He wanted to tell her that revenge would only destroy her, but he stayed silent. It wasn't his place yet. That night, while Ray slept, Lyra sat near the flickering light of the fire. She traced symbols into the dust, old words of vengeance from her ancestors. Her hands trembled, half from weakness, half from fury. "I will walk again," she whispered to the flame. "I will find them, one by one." Outside, lightning split the sky, illuminating the grave she had escaped. The rain washed away the last traces of the soil that once covered her body. Lyra closed her eyes and felt the storm's rhythm echo through her heart. She was not the broken girl they buried. She was something else now, something born from the earth itself. A voice in her mind spoke again, her grandmother's voice, remembered from childhood. "Those who return from the grave are never the same." Lyra smiled faintly. "Good," she whispered. "Let them see what they created." By dawn, Ray found her awake, staring toward the horizon. "You didn't sleep," he said. "Dead things don't sleep," she replied. He frowned. "You're not dead anymore." Lyra turned her head, her glowing eyes reflecting the rising sun. "Not yet." Ray didn't know what she meant. He only saw a survivor, fragile but fierce. He gave her breakfast, adjusted her braces, and told her stories of Earth, oceans, cities, laughter. She listened silently, storing every detail, every image of a world where kindness existed. But when he mentioned family, she looked away. "Family," she repeated bitterly. "A word for people who dig graves," Ray sighed. "Then I guess I'll have to redefine that too." Lyra said nothing. She only watched him as he fixed a broken transmitter, his hand steady, patient, human. Somewhere deep inside her rage, a softer feeling stirred, something she didn't want to name. When he wasn't looking, she touched the metal brace on her leg and whispered, "Thank you." But the next words were darker. "Now I can walk to them." That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ray finally repaired the scanner. He could see faint energy signatures from nearby settlements, the same place Lyra came from. He wanted to explore, maybe ask for help. Lyra stopped him. "Don't go there," she said quickly. "They will kill you." He raised an eyebrow. "You mean us?" "No," she said coldly. "They already tried to kill me. You they will bury next." Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned. Ray hesitated. "Then we stay here together." Lyra looked at him uncertain. For the first time she felt torn between two worlds, the kindness of one man and the cruelty of an entire people. As the firelight flickered across her face, she whispered to herself, "He pulled me from the earth, but can he stop what I've become?" The question hung in the air, unanswered, as thunder rolled again over the dark plains. The storm had passed, but the air on Valura 7 was still heavy. The ground smelled of wet ash and smoke. Inside the small shelter built from Ray's crashed ship, Lyra sat quietly near the fire. Her mechanical leg brace glowed faint blue as it charged. The human had fixed it again, patient as always. Ray looked at her. "You're healing fast," Lyra nodded. "Because you gave me strength," he smiled a little. "No, you already had it." Lyra turned away. Deep inside, her thoughts were dark and loud. Strength for what? She wondered. To live? Or to make them all feel what she had felt? The soil, the fear, the cold. A new kind of training over the next few days. Ray taught her to use human tech. Small drones, scanners, simple weapons. "If you know how to protect yourself," he said, "no one will ever bury you again." Lyra learned fast. Her hands were steady, her eyes sharp. Ray was surprised how quickly she adapted to every tool he gave her. She could even control a hovering bot using her neural patterns, a skill she developed from her alien biology. But she never laughed. Never truly smiled. Sometimes he caught her staring toward the horizon, the same direction where her village lay beyond the hills. "You still think about them," Ray said one evening. Lyra's voice was calm, almost soft. "Every night," he frowned. "You plan to go back?" "I plan to finish what they started." Ray sighed. "Revenge doesn't fix the past, Lyra. It just keeps it alive." She looked at him with eyes that glowed faintly in the firelight. "Then maybe I want it alive, so they can see what they buried." He didn't answer. He wanted to say more, but the pain in her voice silenced him. Memories of the grave that night. Lyra dreamed of dirt pressing against her skin again. The weight, the darkness, the sound of shovels. She woke up gasping, trembling all over. The human rushed to her side. "It's okay, you're safe," Ray said, placing a blanket over her. Lyra's breathing slowed, but tears ran down her face. "They sang while they buried me," she whispered. "A song to bless the dead." "But I was not dead." Ray froze. He didn't know what to say, so he stayed with her in silence until the morning came. When the sun rose, Lyra made her decision. She would return. The goodbye. While Ray worked on repairing a communication beacon, Lyra prepared quietly. She collected small things, a knife, a thermal pack, a cloak to hide her human-made brace. When Ray turned, he saw her ready to leave. "What are you doing?" She met his eyes. "Going home." "You can't," he said. "You're not strong enough yet. And even if you were—" "I have to," she interrupted. "You don't understand. I can't live while they still breathe." He stepped closer, trying to stop her. "You're angry, I get it. But this isn't justice, Lyra, it's suicide." She looked at him with a faint, almost sad smile. "Then let me die on my own terms, human." Ray clenched his fists. "Don't call me human like I'm some stranger." "What should I call you then?" "My name," he said. "Ray." For a moment something flickered in her eyes. Softness, maybe gratitude. "Goodbye, Ray." Before he could say another word, she was gone, moving slowly but steadily through the mist, her metal brace clicking softly against the stones. The return. The path to her old village was long and cruel. The sky was gray, filled with the smell of burning fuel and damp soil. Lyra's body hurt with every step, but she didn't stop. When she reached the hills, she saw the lights of her home below, small fires glowing in the dark. The people she once called family were still there, living as if nothing had happened. Anger filled her chest like fire. She moved silently through the shadows, using the tech Ray had given her. A small drone followed her command, scanning heat signatures, mapping the area. She found her brother first, the one who had held the lamp that night. He was sitting outside, sharpening a blade, humming the same song they had sung when they buried her. Lyra's hands shook. She stepped forward. He heard something behind him and turned, eyes wide, mouth open. "Lyra? No." "You're dead." She tilted her head. "You sound disappointed." He dropped the knife and stumbled back. We thought it was mercy." "Mercy?" she repeated softly. "Tell me, brother, how much mercy did you feel when you covered my mouth with dirt?" He tried to run, but Lyra's drone flashed bright light in his face. She moved behind him, cold and calm. "I forgive you," she whispered, and then buried his face in the same soil he once used for her. The next morning, the villagers found him dead, his body half buried in the mud. On the ground beside him, a symbol was carved in ash, a human hand. None of them understood its meaning. Ray's search back at the crash site, Ray woke to find Lyra gone. He tracked her signal through the scanner, his heart racing. "Come on, don't do this," he muttered. He followed the trail on his hoverbike through the endless plains. By the time he reached the village, the first body had already been found. Fear spread fast among the aliens. Whispers filled the air. "The buried one walks again." Ray asked a farmer what had happened. The man looked terrified. "A ghost," he said. "A crippled ghost. Eyes like fire." Ray knew it was her. He searched every corner, calling her name through the translator. "Lyra, I know you're here. Don't make me your next grave." There was no reply. Second target Lyra watched from the shadows. Her next target was her cousin, the one who had chanted prayers over her grave. He lived near the river, guarding the water filters. She approached at night. The moon reflected on the metal brace of her leg, and she hid it under her cloak. The cousin was drunk, humming to himself as he fixed the machinery. "Do you remember me?" she asked quietly. He spun around, startled. "Lyra?" He laughed nervously. "You survived." The gods had nothing to do with it," she said. "A human saved me." He blinked in confusion. "A human?" "You lie." She raised her hand, showing him the glowing brace. "Does this look like a lie?" His face twisted in horror. "You brought human filth here. You shame us again." Those words sealed his fate. The drone buzzed above his head. A flash of light, a scream, and the water filters exploded, flooding the area. When the water cleared, he was gone. Only his prayer beads floated on the surface. Lyra watched them drift away. For a moment, she felt nothing. No joy, no peace. Only emptiness, the confrontation. When she turned to leave, she found Ray standing there, soaked, angry, breathing hard. "What have you done?" he shouted. Lyra stared at him without fear. "I'm finishing what they started. You think this makes you free?" he said. "It makes you like them." She stepped closer, her voice low and shaking. "They buried me alive, Ray. You can't know what that feels like." "I know what losing your soul feels like," he said quietly. "I've seen soldiers become monsters after war. Don't let that happen to you." For a second, her hands trembled. A tear rolled down her cheek. "You don't understand. They took everything." "I gave you a second chance," he said. "Don't bury that too." Lyra turned away. "I'm not burying anything. I'm digging up the truth." Then she disappeared into the storm again. The fear spreads by. The next night, half the village had fled. Those who remained locked their doors and whispered prayers. They said the buried girl walked with human spirits, her heart replaced by machines. Ray stayed behind, refusing to leave until he found her. He followed the signs, burned marks, broken machines, traces of human tech. He knew she was close. In the dark, he found the small graveyard on the hill, the place where he had dug her out. A single new grave lay open, untouched. He knelt beside it, whispering, "Lyra, if you can hear me, stop this. You're not the darkness they made you." Behind him, a voice said, "Maybe I am." He turned. Lyra stood there, soaked by rain, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. "This is where I died," she said, "and this is where it will end." Ray slowly stood. "Then let it end here, with peace." She looked at him for a long moment. The rain dripped from her hair, her metal brace sparking slightly. "Peace?" she whispered. "Peace is a luxury of the living." "Then live," he pleaded. "You've already won. You survived." Her jaw tightened. "Survival is not victory. They must know pain." Ray stepped closer, ignoring the drone hovering near her shoulder. "Then make them see it another way. Show them mercy. That's how humans win." Lyra's eyes softened for just a second. "Mercy," she repeated. "A word I never knew until you said it." Lightning flashed across the sky, and for that brief moment, Ray saw the struggle in her face, the fury, the grief, the fragile hope fighting inside her. Then she turned and vanished again into the rain. The shadow in the fire, as the night deepened, screams echoed once more from the village. One by one the lights went out until only the storm remained. Ray stood helpless, staring at the burning horizon. He didn't know if Lyra was alive, dead, or something in between. In the distance, among the flames, a single figure limped away, a woman in a torn cloak, her mechanical brace glowing faintly like a dying star. Lyra walked without looking back. Each step hurt, but she did not stop. The faces of her family haunted her eyes, mixed now with another face, Ray's. She whispered to the wind, "You pulled me from the grave. But can you pull me from myself?" The storm swallowed her words. The village of Velura 7 was silent. Smoke rose from burned huts and the rain washed black ash down the empty streets. Lyra stood on the hill above, her cloak torn, her metal brace sparking with every movement. The fire inside her chest had almost burned everything away, except the pain. She had taken revenge on nearly all who had buried her. But one remained. Her mother. The woman who had kissed her forehead that night and whispered, "Forgive us," before turning away. Lyra's hands shook. Part of her wanted to rest, to collapse in the mud and forget, but another voice whispered in her mind, "Finish it." Below, the last house still had light. Inside, her mother prayed before a small altar. Her lips moved silently, her hands trembling. She looked older, smaller than Lyra remembered. The human returns behind Lyra. The soft hum of engines broke the quiet. Ray arrived on his hover bike covered in dust and rain. He jumped off, shouting over the wind, "Lyra! Stop, it's over!" She didn't turn. "No, not yet." He walked closer, breathing hard. "You've destroyed everything. You proved your point. Let it end here." Lyra's voice was cold. "You don't understand. She left me to die. My own mother." Ray stepped beside her. "I do understand. But killing her won't bring you back from that grave." Lyra finally looked at him. Her eyes glowed bright blue. "I am not coming back. I died that night." Ray took a slow breath. "Then what are you now?" She hesitated. A memory that refuses to fade. Face to face, they walked down the hill together, rain pouring around them. The door creaked open as Lyra stepped inside. Her mother froze. The old woman's eyes widened in shock. "Lyra, my child?" Lyra's voice was steady but sharp. "Do not call me that." The woman fell to her knees. "The council, they made us do it. They said you would curse us." Lyra's laugh was bitter. "And you agreed. You buried your daughter alive." Her mother sobbed. "I thought you were gone. I thought you couldn't feel the pain." Lyra slammed her hand on the table, the impact shaking the room. "I felt everything. The soil in my mouth, the air leaving my chest. I heard your voice praying while I died." Ray stepped between them. "Lyra, stop. She's terrified. Look at her. She's not the monster here. She's broken." Lyra's breath came fast. The room spun between rage and grief. She lifted the small pulse blade from her belt, its light flickering like her heartbeat. Her mother whispered, "If you must, do it. I deserve it." Lyra froze. The words cut deeper than any weapon. Her hand trembled. "Do it," her mother said again, "if this will give you peace." But Lyra suddenly dropped the blade. It clattered to the floor. Tears ran down her silver cheeks. "Peace," she whispered. That word again. "I can never have it." The attack before Ray could speak, a loud explosion shook the ground. The door blew open. Armed soldiers in dark armor stormed in. The warlord of Velura, a cruel man who ruled the nearby provinces, had heard of the resurrected girl and her human. He shouted, "There they are, the human who desecrated our land, and the cursed woman who walks with him." Dozens of guns aimed at them. Lyra pushed her mother behind her. "Stay down!" Ray raised his weapon. "We can't fight all of them." Lyra's mechanical brace hissed as she stood tall. "I can." She tapped her wrist and activated the human tech Ray had once given her. Drones, shields, all linked to her neural signal. The air filled with glowing blue symbols as she stepped into the rain-soaked street. The soldiers opened fire. Battle in the rain bolts of plasma tore through the night. Lyra moved like a ghost, her exosuit responding faster than thought. The drones circled her, firing beams of light, scattering enemies in every direction. She felt no pain, only purpose. Ray fought beside her, covering her flank. "There are too many," he shouted. Lyra ignored him. "Then we bury them." She jumped forward, landing in the middle of the soldiers. Her blade cut through armor. The ground burned from the energy blasts. Rain turned to steam around her. Every move felt heavy, her body breaking again, but she didn't stop. Ray watched in awe and fear. She wasn't fighting like a human or alien anymore. She was something else, something born of rage and mercy combined. When the last soldier fell, lightning flashed across the valley. Lyra stood in the center, her brace smoking, her breathing ragged. The warlord tried to crawl away. "Please, spare me," he begged. Lyra looked down at him. "They said the same words when I screamed for air." The warlord's eyes filled with terror. "You're not a woman. You're death." She raised her hand, then stopped. The rain washed the dirt from her face, and she saw her reflection in a puddle, a reflection of what she had become. Not a survivor, not a monster, and something between. Ray approached slowly. Don't let them make you like him. She lowered her hand. I'm not like him. He kills for power. I kill for memory. Then she turned away, leaving the warlord alive but broken. The collapse when the battle ended. Lyra fell to her knees. Sparks flew from her brace. The power cells were empty. Ray rushed to her side. You're hurt. I'm tired, she whispered. So tired. He caught her before she hit the ground. Her breathing was shallow, but her eyes still glowed faintly. You have to live, Lyra. We'll fix this. We'll go to Earth. You'll be safe there. She smiled weakly. Earth. Your world of blue skies and oceans. Maybe in another life. Ray shook his head. No. This life. She looked past him at her mother standing in the doorway, crying silently. Tell her. I forgive her, Lyra said softly. Her mother fell to her knees, sobbing. My child, Sano, please. Lyra reached out her trembling hand. Don't cry. The soil took me once, but not again. Rebirth Ray carried her back to the ship's remains. He worked all night, patching her wounds, replacing the broken brace with stronger alloy. He transferred half of the ship's power core to keep her alive. When dawn came, Lyra opened her eyes. You should have let me go, she said weakly. I didn't save you to watch you die twice, Ray replied. She looked at him, tears in her eyes. Why do you care so much? He smiled faintly. Because you taught me that even buried hearts can beat again. Lyra turned her head toward the sunrise. The sky was no longer gray. Light broke through the clouds. She whispered, It's beautiful. Ray nodded. Now it means something, doesn't it? She smiled for the first time, a real smile. Yes, it means life. The new dawn days later, the village began to rebuild. The people who survived now spoke her name with respect, not fear. They buried their weapons and swore never again to follow the old cruel laws. Lyra stood with her mother by the river. The water that once carried her cousin's beads now ran clear. I thought revenge would fill the emptiness, Lyra said quietly. But it only made it deeper. Her mother nodded through tears. I cannot change what I did, but I will spend the rest of my life honoring what you have become. Lyra looked at the horizon where Ray's ship shimmered in the distance, ready for departure. He taught me mercy, she said. Maybe our worlds can learn it too. Her mother touched her hand gently. Go with him. You don't belong among graves anymore. Lyra smiled sadly. I belong where life begins again. Farewell. When she reached the ship, Ray was checking the systems. You sure you're ready to leave? He asked. Lyra looked back at the valley. Yes, I buried my hatred here. He nodded. Then let's go. As the engines roared to life, the villagers gathered below, watching the human craft rise into the sky. For the first time in generations, they saw hope instead of fear. Inside the cockpit, Lyra watched the world shrink beneath them. I used to think the sky was a ceiling, she said. Now I see it's a door. Ray smiled. And you just opened it. She looked at him, her eyes soft but strong. Thank you for pulling me out of the grave, and for showing me how to live again. He glanced at her brace, glowing faintly with Earth's energy. You're more human than you think, she laughed quietly. And you're kinder than your species' stories. They both smiled. Epilogue. The buried star months later, on a small human research base orbiting Valura 7, a new garden grew. Alien and human plants side by side. Among them stood a small stone with words carved by Lyra herself. I was buried in darkness, but kindness dug me up. May every grave become a garden. Ray placed a small flower at its base and looked up at the stars. Somewhere beyond, Lyra was already exploring, helping rebuild worlds torn by war, using both human and alien strength. Her story became legend, the girl who was buried alive and rose not for vengeance, but for mercy. The buried star of Valura 7 closing line for video. She was buried alive once, but she rose again not from the earth but from forgiveness, and sometimes mercy is the strongest revenge.